Hi there, gorgeous! Happy Drugstore and Dupe It December to you. If you have not heard, every video coming out this entire month is drugstore themed. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are Drugstore December, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, like today, are Dupe It December. So if you'd like to be notified of new videos like this one all month long, please subscribe, and thank you in advance if you do. Today I'm comparing a LA Girl palette with Urban Decay's Naked3 palette. Now this was a completely accidental discovery. I actually ordered the LA Girl palette to try out because I've tried a number of their palettes in the past, been most impressed by the pigment and the color payoff, and so I thought this one was really beautiful. But the second that I got it delivered and I looked at it, I said, oh, that looks so familiar, and it was very reminiscent to Urban Decay's Naked3. I mean, you can see the similarities right there. So I wanted to put it to the test today and show you in a side-by-side application what these two palettes look like. And I'll also show you swatches at the end of the video, and I will let you know, is it truly a dupe or is it just an excellent alternative? For this tutorial, I think I'm going to use the Urban Decay palette on this eye and use the LA Girl palette on this eye. Beginning with this light mauve shade, there are no names in the LA Girl palette to reference, so I'm just going to reference the Urban Decay palette eyeshadow names. This is the shade Limit, and it's a very light mauve, dusty rose kind of color. So we'll apply Urban Decay's version over here, so you can see the kind of quality that you get. Now, Urban Decay eyeshadows, in my experience, are pigmented. They are. The problem that I have with them personally is that they fade and muddy by the end of the day. They don't fade so much as they just muddy and run together, and then you really can't tell where you applied each eyeshadow. So that's usually why I don't typically go for their formula personally. And when I'm able to find a dupe for their palettes, I'm really excited because 9 times out of 10, the dupe does not muddy up by the end of the day. Do you have that problem with Urban Decay too if you've tried their eyeshadows? I've heard this from other people in the past also. And you can see that this shade is a very light shade against my skin tone, so I'm having to layer it a couple times here. Using the LA Girl version of this color, I'm going to apply this into the crease also. And ooh, that's light. Now, Urban Decay's version is already a light shade against my skin tone, so this is really no different. You can see that I have a lot more fallout on my face than what I got with the Urban Decay eyeshadow. And what I'm already noticing is that these eyeshadows from LA Girl are much more powdery by comparison. You can probably see all the dust kicking up from the eyeshadow there. But the pigment performance is the same with this particular shade, and you can see what I mean. It's still a very, that's bugging me. Okay, like I was saying, it's still a very light shade against my skin tone, so in this instance, pretty doggone close, if not identical up to this point. Taking the deep gray at the bottom of the palette here, in the Urban Decay palette, it's called Dark Side. Looks like that. I'm using this on a very densely packed brush. It's a very small brush here. This is from AOA Studio. It's their E132. And I'm going to apply that directly into the crease. Maybe not. Okay, let's try this again. Applying into the crease. There we go. See, it just goes to show you, even if you're a high-end palette, sometimes you need a little bit more product. I'm going to switch my brush here. I'm using the Crown C510 brush instead. I just need something that's a little more dense, has a bigger surface area to cover, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. There we go. Taking the counterpart from the LA Girl palette, I'm doing the same thing over here, and once again, I tapped off too much. Let me apply more to the brush here. Okay, let's see. Much better. Okay, well, so far I'm not really seeing a huge difference between both of these palettes. I mean, there are some subtle differences, but for the most part, the look is looking the same. Like, both my eyes don't look different yet. Going in with the eyeshadow called Nooner from Urban Decay's palette. It's this darker dusty mauve. It's basically the darker version of the Limit eyeshadow that I used in the beginning. And I'm going to use that to blend in between that deep crease color and the top transition shade that I first applied. Same thing with the LA Girl version on this eye, using that to blend in between those colors. And I'll probably edit a lot of this out, but just know that I'm probably spending about a good 3 to 4 minutes on this step alone. Basically moving the brush back and forth like this until I cannot see any rough edges. Another trick that helps me too that I wanted to share with you is if you tilt your head back and you look in the mirror like this, that will help you detect harsh lines, because sometimes when you have your eyes open, it's rather deceptive and you don't really see them. And when you close your eyes, you're going to see them much better. So that's something that I like to do in between in my blending to make sure I'm getting rid of all of those lines. Oddly enough, I feel like it's blending better on the LA Girl side as opposed to the Urban Decay side. And I'm not sure if it'll come across, but can you see what I mean? It just looks a little better over here compared to over here. I am making this up as I go along. I really didn't have any strategy when I first set out to create this look. So I think the next eyeshadow that I want to use is probably the one called Black Heart from the Urban Decay palette, simply because I'm just gonna spoil this for you right here, right now. The shade in the LA Girl palette that is supposed to be similar to this, or at least looks similar to it, isn't really. So I want you to see up close the differences that exist between the two shades on the eyes. I'm going to apply this to the outer third of the lid. And then I'm also going to apply it to the inner third of the lid. And I don't have much on the brush, FYI. A little bit goes a long way because this is a super pigmented eyeshadow. With the LA Girl palette over here, I was gonna make a liar out of me. When you swatch these, you'll see at the end of the video, you can really tell a difference between the two of them. One is noticeably much darker and more pigmented, Urban Decay, compared to the LA Girl palette, but this is making a liar out of me because it looks pretty good side by side on the eyes. Although it's still not as intense, I feel like, as this side, and you can really see all the fallout there. I mean, yeah, I told you it was a powdery formula. Just keep brushing it away. This is why I do my face last in all of my eyeshadow applications. And for that center lid color, I'm going to pop some pink right there. Why not? I'm taking the eyeshadow Buzz from the Urban Decay Naked3 palette, which is this one right here. Applying it wet, so you're aware, to the center of the lid right there. And same thing on the LA Girl side, and this may not draw enough contrast for me now that I'm really looking at it. I may want to layer it with another eyeshadow. So I'm going to lighten it a little bit. I'm taking the eyeshadow Strange from the Urban Decay palette, and I'm lightly going to apply it over the top of that. And then go back with more of that Buzz shade and apply it over the top, so it's more like a white pink. If I were going to create this look solely with the Urban Decay Naked3 palette, I probably would have applied the eyeshadow called Dust to the center of the lid, wet. But there is no shade that matches that eyeshadow in the LA Girl palette, so I couldn't exactly use that for this look. But I do feel like, get that fallout off my face again. Sorry about that. Overall, I do feel like the two eyes are extremely similar to one another. Some of the differences that I picked up on during the application is that I do feel like the LA Girl eye blended a little bit better than Urban Decay's eyeshadows did over here, but the Urban Decay eyeshadows are slightly more pigmented compared to the LA Girl ones, whereas I had to work a little bit more to get these to look the way that they do. But when you really look at them, I mean, it's just pretty doggone similar. Like I'd mentioned, with the LA Girl palette, you will find that the eyeshadow formula is a bit more powdery compared to Urban Decay's formula, and it's not as intensely pigmented as what you'll find with Urban Decay's eyeshadows either. They do take a little bit more time to build up and you have to work with them a little bit more. And if you look at these palettes side by side in swatches, you can see that they are not identical. So I would not say to you that the LA Girl palette is an exact dupe, but at this price point, it is an excellent alternative if you want something that has the same color scheme as the Urban Decay Naked3 palette, but you don't want to spend $50 to get it. Always interesting to see what you'll discover, and sometimes you find excellent dupes that are an exact match, other times you find ones that are great alternatives. So either way, I hope you found this helpful today. If you're interested in this palette, I'll have it listed and linked below for you. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to watch. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for another video in Drugstore December.